Gary here. Welcome to BookMob episode 69. Today I'm going to talk about a novel that was introduced to me by the lonesome reader, Eric Carl Anderson. It's quite a big book reviewers channel on YouTube. So look up Eric Carl Anderson, the lonesome reader, and you can find him. And anyway, I saw a he talked about a book that he had just read and that I'd never heard of, a writer that I'd never heard of. And I decided on the spur of the moment, I'm going to check this book out because I just wanted to see from his own comments on the novel. And the novel is Audition by Kitamura. And, okay. Now, this is a novel I recommend to everyone. It's not an easy novel. It's a very, very short novel. I think it's only about 195 pages. I read it literally in one sitting because it's a page turner. I couldn't put it down. I needed to know where the story was going. However, in recommending this novel to readers, I need to give, because Eric Carl Anderson, in his own review, did talk about the difficulty in his comprehension and his understanding of the novel, and that's what piqued my interest. I went, there's nothing better than someone who's going, I don't know what this novel's about, but it's something in it. It's good. It's strange, and it's worth reading. And it is. It is totally worth reading. I mean, it's beautifully written. The prose is just fantastic. It just flows throughout the pages, and you just find yourself sort of seeking or wanting to find out more about what it is. Now, I looked up a couple of reviews of this book, which I don't usually do. Usually I let myself understand what I'm reading. But because this novel was kind of obscure and kind of a very curious writing, I didn't really know how I should view or talk about the novel to readers who are looking to read books that they find interesting and captivating and engaging. And certainly this book actually is all three of those: captivating, engaging, and it's beautifully written. And is there a plot? I don't think there's a plot. I would consider this Katie Murray's book, Audition, published in Australia in April 2025. I would consider what the term I would use was it's a conceptual novel. Now, you can argue, discuss, debate what the term conceptual means, and I looked up a few variations of what it is, and I came to my own sort of understanding. A conceptual novel refers to a novel with the underlying concept or idea is central to the narrative, and these novels prioritize the exploration of specific idea or premise. It comes at the expense of plot structure and character development. That's certainly what happens in Katie Murray's Audition. It's a form, I guess conceptual literature is a form of literature that elevates the power of ideas and concepts. It's the actual reading, it's the words, it's not the context, not the character, not the plot. It's like, for me, this novel was an inner monologue of someone. Now, before I was about to say of someone who, this is my interpretation, okay? And an interpretation I didn't come across in any of the reviews that I looked at over the last week. I just found that no one actually mentioned this. To me, this is the inner monologue of someone with a poisoned or sick mind. Someone whose mind has kind of is slowly, not all at once. That's the great thing about the novel, because it flows into this kind of distorted view of reality, that the inner monologue that the writer is telling you, the reader, this is her world, the world that she lives in, and the application of her understanding of the people around her, it just doesn't sound normal. It doesn't sound regular. It sounds like someone who is struggling with reality. And in fact, there is a line in the book, somewhat towards the I don't want to give any spoilers. It's so difficult. I don't want to give spoilers away. But someone does mention that the main character, is struggling to understand the difference between the world of reality and unreality. And this, to me, talks about a person who is undergoing some kind of mindful experience that is not what we would consider regular. Like, put it this way, if you look, just take a basic example. You sit down, you can look around your environment where you live, you know where the toilet is, you know where the kitchen is, you know where your car is parked outside in the driveway, you know where your friends live, even though you don't see them, you can picture, oh yeah, I have friends, I have family who live in these cities or these houses or these flats. I just think that this person, this character, this actress, this unknown narrator is kind of stuck in a degrading world, and that's the word that always came through to me the whole the whole novel. And the reason I said the word play is because it does revolve around a theatrical actor who's working in plays, and the book kind of, I think it works. So it's only, like I said, 190 pages. It works in a phase. There's a phase where everything kind of seems regular, and you can kind of make ideas about different characters, and it's almost like you're reading a regular book. And then there's like a part 2 part of the book where everything kind of slips away, and suddenly the character is talking not in nonsensical terms, but the character is trying to behave, is reacting to behavior of others in what I would call a person with a poisoned or damaged or corrupted mind. Now, some of the reviews I read, talk about because the main character is an actress, and she's in a very well-known, or she's in a very successful play in New York City. But to me, that's all just minimal, sort of minor factors. I think for me, the play is about someone who is losing touch with reality. And when I say losing touch with reality, I mean that when if you have, just say you get into an argument with someone and you talk to them, or a discussion or a debate, you can empathize mostly with what they're saying. You can understand, this is their point of view. But this character seems to develop a single point of view of how the world is reacting to her. And it's a frustrating novel in the sense that you don't really know what the hell is happening. And the way Eric Carl Anderson spoke about it, he spoke it more of as a mystery, and a mystery to be uncovered, like a murder mystery or a thriller mystery where something's gone wrong and there's someone in there trying to solve the problem, and at the end of the novel they present you with the solution. But that's not what I found. I found it to be, it's disconcerting, because you read the novel and suddenly there's this change that in some ways is juxtaposed with the inside the narrative of the book Audition. The character is playing a role in a play, and there's 2 sides to the play, and in the second half of the play, the character reaches out and moves beyond the original meaning of the play. And in a sense, the writer, I think Katie Kitamura, is trying to say this person has reached a level of brain malfunction that is slowly coming on, but there is always a point of no return where that brain malfunction just becomes far too huge to ignore, and that everything around her is suspicious, paranoid. And again, when I didn't read all the reviews about this novel. Of course I didn't. But what I'm saying is I didn't pick one single review that said this book is about someone who is developing, say, a neurological condition, be it what like where someone is old and their brain has dementia, or they have a drug problem, and it affects the actual firing, the actual mechanism of the mind. Now, that is purely my feeling when I read the book. A couple of people were talking about the power of actors who are on it. So the actor, the female character, is an actor on stage doing a play, and then they juxtapose that with the female actress as a person in her regular domestic life with her husband Theo and her son Xavier, if indeed he is his son. But I won't go into that, because that to me, again, though anything you say about this novel is a spoiler, other than to say that when I read it, I was engaged, I was entrapped, because I did feel that there was something there was something just flowing like lava underneath the surface, that there was more to this novel than just the sort of superficial life of an actress who can who can dine in fine restaurants and has lots of friends and everyone telling her how great she is. But at the bottom of it, to me, there is an element of identity, the loss of identity, the loss of meaning, the loss of reality, and that person who is losing touch with reality does go through a sense of that their mind knows that they are not the person they used to be. Now, that may be hard to understand and digest because you haven't read the novel, but I highly recommend you check out this really, really interesting, intriguing, and engaging piece of prose, because it's not something that you would regularly read. I think it really does take the inner monologue, the personal view of the world from someone who is not living in the same world as you and I. And I guess if people who, in your own life, you might know of people who have had brain injuries, or people who have developed dementia or Parkinson's disease or whatever it is, where their experiences now become fractured in time, in memory, and it's difficult for them to see the world as they used to see it before their brain became poisoned by whatever damage or trauma that has occurred to them. That's how I see it. I see it as a character who is going through some organic brain malfunction, and it's beautifully written in the sense that the writer has tried to understand what it must be like for someone who becomes lost in their own life because of a brain malfunction. And in the sense, because the brain malfunctions doesn't mean you die. It just means that the brain starts to interpret the world in very, very different ways. And that's the beautiful thing about Audition by Katie Kitamura, is that she's offering an insight into a narrative of someone who has lost the capacity to I guess, be rational and to see the world as it is, because all the characters slowly become vague sort of impressions. Who is real, what is real, and that's the important thing. Who is real, what is real, feelings real, the paranoia, the desperation to know that what you're doing, the character itself, is what she's doing is right, that there's nothing wrong with the world because she's living her own experience in her own mind. So when I say let's read this book, I want you to read it with the idea that there's no plot, there's no real characters. It's more of a hypothesis. It's more of an idea of someone. It's a inner monologue of someone who is struggling who's not struggling. That's what I meant to say. Who's not struggling because she doesn't know that she's struggling. To everyone looking in at her, I suppose you could see that is someone struggling. But maybe the mind poisoned. Once your mind is disabled from the normal procedures of your life, that you don't recognize that your mind is broken. You just live in the world with a broken mind. So everything else is entirely true and real and realistic to you. but it's the others, and that's the one thing this novel doesn't really supply, which is good. It doesn't supply an outside force of, oh, what's happened to her? Why is she behaving like this? Why is she saying this? Why is she acting like this? So that's the beauty of the novel. It's short. It's very, very engaging. It's sad. It's desperate. It's frustrating as well, because you really, for some reason, the part of your storytelling need wants to have a resolution. It wants to know what is going on, and the book will never deliver that for you, because you have to take it on its own merit. The way it ends, the way it begins, you just go, well, this is just someone's effort. And it's well written. I mean, you cannot go wrong with the language. It's so beautifully written that I must admit, I found that was the problem. I found it so well written. I kept expecting answers. There's no answers. There's no responses but your own. And again, I think when we think of novels, we think of stories and plots and resolutions, great characters. This novel is one of those rare ones that comes along that offers nothing in the sense of entertainment, though it is inspiring, it is engaging, and it is a worthy read, because it does give an insight into someone's ideas of what happens when the mind goes awry. Even though this is, again, the mind going awry, the sense of dementia or Parkinson's or some other disease of the mind is never spoken about, except in one scene in the first third of the book. The character talks about a character who did develop dementia, and for me that was a trigger. When okay, it seems as if the character remembers someone going through this horrible phase where they forgot everyone, they forgot their life, they forgot their loved ones, but they still lived in the real world. And this is the essence of the novel for me. It's someone who is under some kind of trance, or poisoned mind, who's living in the real world and having to deal with the reality around them, because the reality gets turned upside down from one part to the other. Suddenly, the so-called son, Xavier, is a nobody and a nothing, and then in part 2, he suddenly becomes the son. He is a son, and that there's some kind of plot, but really it's more up to you, the reader, to understand and see and capture the difference between, say, part 1 and part 2. A lot of theatre productions, plays are made in that kind of way in part 1 and part 2, just the way the structure of the theatre and the play works. So Kitamura has kind of taken the theatrical version of the way the world works in part 1s and part 2s, and has kind of put it onto this character who lives in a world where part 1 is kind of sensical, kind of logical, and then suddenly the world is upturned, because you go, oh, hold on a minute, what happened? And that's the beauty of it. So at the end of the day, please think about Kitamura's book Audition. Give it a look. It's not a book about a plot or characters. There's no resolutions. There's just this beautiful prose, this beautiful writing that gives you, in my opinion, an insight into a mind that is challenged by reality to the reality of that mind. So that should hopefully be one of the novels you read in 2025, and I highly recommend it. It's a great novel. I really enjoyed it. I couldn't put it down. I read it in one sitting, and even though I was frustrated and bemused and confused and kind of frustrated at what is happening, what is going on, once on reflection, I saw the beauty and the simplicity of the idea. So well worth reading. Have a go and let me know what you think. I mean, please subscribe as well, because, I've got 69 subscribers. Another couple would be great. But at the end of the day, Audition by Katie Kitamura is a fabulous book to read for 2025. Now, before I go, it was recommended that I read Mia by Danielle Giles, and that was also recommended by another book mob type channel. The book, I think it's the Bob the Bookkeeper or something. Anyway, you should look it up, Bob the Bookerer. That's right, I think it's Bob the Bookerer. And he's from England too, same with Eric Carl Anderson. And he recommended this book, he really loved it. So I thought, I'm going to give this a go. So I had 2 novels from 2 different book channels that recommended books, and I decided to give them a go. All right, thanks for joining us. And if you have any, remember, please like and subscribe. And if you've got any questions, just send it to the email address of bookmob1966@gmail.com. And if you have any problems or questions or desires or thoughts, just let me know. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next episode of a Book Mob. Bye.